Don't give it 5 minutes if you're not going to give it 5 years. Or 5 years. 5 years.
A lot of Meghan's critics, including myself, get accused of being jealous and bitter and envious because we don't have all of her riches and her glamour and her titles and whatever else people deem valuable. But here's the thing, I have never envied the likes of Meghan Markle. And I say the likes because, make no mistake, almost every single time we talk about her, she is just an emblem, an avatar rather, of the types of people that exist that are just like her. People we all know in our personal lives, people who have harmed us, in some cases even tried to destroy our lives. But I digress. I really don't envy Meghan, but I do pity her. Despite being in the limelight for all these years now, to me at least, she still comes across as this empty, hollow avatar of a human being. Every year, every week I should say actually, we hear about a rebrand, a relaunch, the year of this, the year of that. All of these constant changes, the woman is constantly in flux, really make one wonder if she herself has any idea what she wants to do with her life, what she's about, what matters to her, other than herself and her fame and her fortune, of course. But all these constant relaunches, they're practically her identity now. Even the Vanity Fair article references that tendency of hers and mentions how that made her actually not a good fit for the more constant traditional monarchy. Now, we've talked about her tendency to shapeshift, and I have a video called The Chameleon, and it's not exactly a new topic, but I came across this article from The Sun of all places, which was written January 2020 when Megxit first happened. Meg's 2-year itch. Why Meghan Markle can't stick to anything for more than 2 years, from her first husband and pals to being a royal. And it starts off by asking, just how long is the Duchess of Sussex's attention span? She has been an actress, a wife, a vocal feminist, and now a royal, yet Meghan doesn't seem to stick at anything for more than a couple of years. Now, this article starts off with her first husband, but we all know that Meghan's tendency to hop from one bandwagon to the other started long before she married Trevor. Remember her wannabe politician days?
Did you ever get a job working in politics?
I used to work for the U.S. Embassy in Buenos Aires, and yeah, I don't know, it was another life.
I swear to God, I saw this clip in 2018 when suddenly they started surfacing because she was the most famous woman on the planet at that point. And I was much younger, and I just thought she was amazing. I believed it. I had no reason to question it. I just thought, wow, no wonder Harry thought she was a catch. I knew nothing about Harry either, mind you.
I didn't know much about him.
We all know the truth. I know it's an old story, a broken record, but just in case we have some newbies here who don't know, that job that she apparently had as a politician, in politics in Argentina, was a 5-week student internship that her uncle got her through using his connections, and which she flopped out of. So she had to do an entrance exam and she failed. And she just quit. She gave up. She left, went back to the US and tried to break into Hollywood. So forget 2 years. That stint barely lasted 5 weeks. Then she met her husband, which they do reference in this article. And that's when her actress era started, or I should say wannabe actress. So she was a wannabe politician, became a wannabe actress, culminated in Suits. I do always admit that that is a success, however big or small you think it is. It's a big deal landing a spot on a TV show. Yes, even if you're 6th on the call sheet. I think she had a good life at that time. But I'm getting ahead of myself because we need to talk about Trevor, since he's specifically referenced in this article as the first two-year itch, as it were. They talk about how basically their marriage barely lasted a couple of years before Meghan, very infamously now as we know the story, mailed Trevor her rings without any warning from where she lived in Toronto at the time. I will say that Meghan was with him for, I believe, 10 years in total, because they met in 2003. They only married in 2011, but they were together for all that time. So I'll give her that. That is a very long-term relationship. I suppose it was her first serious relationship. And it really only ended when her fame got to her head with Suits. Then comes Chef Corey Vitiello. Now he comes up second in the Sun's list, and it really coincides with her wannabe foodie era.
So today we're making toast, a very fancy version of toast.
Yes, but it doesn't have to feel overwhelming. Just trying to find a way to add an extra twist to make something that's ordinary a little bit more extraordinary.
We cannot forget, of course, her wannabe influencer era. Now this coexisted alongside her wannabe foodie era, because she basically married the two. The TIG had a whole food section, and she pretended to be interested in food. Now that lasted from 2014 to 2017, just under 3 years. So a little bit more than the 2-year itch, which is probably why this article doesn't reference it. But I thought it was very important actually to put in the TIG, because let's face it, 2-3 years, what's the difference? That's really not long enough for something that she was apparently so invested in that she would reference the TIG as her baby.
It's my baby, so I'm very proud of it still after 2 years.
The way she dropped it so unceremoniously, because she's moved on to the next best thing, I think it's worth mentioning. Of course, we cannot talk about Meghan's bandwagon hopping 2-year itch phases without bringing up her wannabe feminist and wannabe humanitarian eras. They both also started around the same time, around 2014-ish. She wanted to emulate both Emma Watson and Angelina Jolie. And from what I remember reading in Tom Bower's Revenge, that was pretty much her entire motive at the time. Eventually, she met Gina Nelthorpe-Cowan, who was her agent for a while, and she dropped that, again, infamous, I'm using that word too much today, but it's an apt descriptor, line when she allegedly asked Gina to make her out to be a humanitarian. That always struck me as an indication of just how empty Meghan Markle is on the inside. Nothing actually matters to her other than herself and her fame and fortune. That's almost like a little asterisk I have to put up for the duration of this video. Other than that, nothing matters. It's all about the perception. It's all about how the world sees her, rather than a genuine interest in these areas that she consistently attaches herself to briefly and then discards. Starting off with the wannabe feminism, because chronologically I believe that came first through the UN. Meghan used her friends in high places, a hotelier called John Fitzpatrick, who was friends with the Clintons, to get Meghan into the UN as some kind of an intern almost, just someone who could shadow people. And I suppose people tolerated her enough. That is, until that display, that grand display of narcissism, when she took to the stage in March of 2015, where she spoke about herself, her favorite thing to do. I suppose that's her hobby, her interest, her beliefs, and her values, for 9 minutes and 40 seconds straight. Only to then quit after a hissy fit when the heads of UN Women saw right through her narcissism and her self-serving motives and declined to make her an ambassador, like Emma Watson and Angelina Jolie. She had barely been with the UN, barely, and was already handed something that was quite generous for her, an advocate, and that wasn't good enough. And so she dropped them like a hot potato. Then, of course, comes her whole humanitarian shtick, which we all believe, if you look at the timeline, was purely to nail Harry, because she discerned that that mattered to him and she wanted to be seen as his mother, reincarnated. And of course, we know how that played out. World Vision, which was the organization that took her to Rwanda, they say on their website that she was only an ambassador from 2016 to 2017. So again, it falls short of that 2-year itch. I would be surprised if it even lasted a year, because she basically ditched a trip to India halfway through. She couldn't even see that through because she was like, well, why? I already have the prince. He's in the bag. I don't need to put up this facade anymore. Then comes the creme de la creme, the pinnacle of Meghan's eras or phases. I should call them phases because she's like a teenager. You know how teenagers are? You like this band and you start dressing like them. I used to dress like a punk because I love Green Day, and you just like whatever your friends like. It's a childish teenage mentality. And it was with this mentality that she approached her desire and her dreams to become royalty. Despite it having thousands of years of tradition and history behind it, all she cared about was the image, the superficiality of it all, not what it meant to marry into such a family and to carry such a title. No, as long as she had the riches and the glamour, the clothes and the accolades, that's all that mattered to her. And she had all these things, and still she lasted barely what? Let's say the 1st of December was her first pre-royal, I suppose, engagement until Megxit. And she was really a working royal since May 2018, which really shortens the time span even further, making it a year and a half. And as the article said, just slightly more than 2 years later, despite her initial enthusiasm about being keen to get boots on the ground, she got fed up of public duty and decided to call it quits. And that's where the article stops. Because don't forget, it was written in 2020, January 2020, no less. Little did, who was the author? Little did Kate Jackson know that had she waited just a couple of years, she'd have so many more examples of this whole 2-year itch disorder that Meghan is very clearly still struggling with. I suppose we should start off with Archewell, because more of this behavior ensues. Now, people can say that both Meghan and Harry are running Archewell. I beg to differ, purely because Archewell's behavior is an exact replica of Meghan's, in the sense that there's no allegiance to anything or anyone other than themselves. And Archewell is notorious for bandwagon hopping amongst different causes, just latching itself onto the flavor or cause of the day, if you will. She tried her hand at being an author. That flopped. She tried the whole 40 by 40 initiative, which I shouldn't even say try. Actually, that initiative is the most perfect example, other than Rwanda and the UN speech, of her superficial virtue signaling, because all she did was film that promo. Then she tried her hand at being a podcaster, which also flopped. And mind you, there were rumors that she was trying to record new episodes with Lemonada, but then this Vanity Fair article made her delay these episodes. I'm sorry, I don't believe it. And then when that failed, she tried to be an entrepreneur, I suppose, with the whole American Riviera Orchard thing, which is still, almost a year later, dead in the water. And now she's back to being a foodie.
I've always loved taking something pretty ordinary and elevating it.
So what am I trying to accomplish with all this? It's in response to people who love to accuse us of being envious. Meghan Markle is proof that all the money and the titles and the privilege and the fame in the world cannot give you a sense of self. You can't buy that. And she tries. She looks at personalities and identities in the way that we would look at clothes. Oh, that one looks good for today. Oh, I guess I'll try this one today. I think that one would look pretty good on me today. But even then, most people dress up in a way that reflects who they are. So it still has more depth and meaning, the way we pick our clothes out, than Meghan Markle has ever experienced for probably even 1 second of her life. This is beyond boredom. You know, they say only bored people get bored. This speaks to something a lot deeper and a lot more tragic. I'm a lot younger than Meghan. I cannot even fathom getting to her age, living through life, not knowing who I am. That's what makes teenage years so turbulent, apart from all the hormones and, you know, that little nasty thing called puberty. We don't know who we are. We're trying to find that sense of self, that identity, our place in the world, what matters to us, what speaks to us, what we want to invest our time and effort into. A sense of purpose, as it were. Meghan clearly, based on this pattern, this 2-year itch of hers, she clearly lacks that integral part of being a well-rounded human being. And that's just sad. I'm no psychologist, and I know people don't like armchair psychology, but it is also indicative of a possible issue with a personality disorder. I'm sure a lot of us know someone, I know I do, who has the exact same problem as Meghan, and you know, because you know them on a personal level, that it's a really difficult way to live. They like to pretend that it's not a problem because these people don't admit that they lack a sense of self. They probably don't even know. It's their normal. They haven't experienced anything different. To them, we are all fake. They think we're all faking it, that we don't have any genuine likes and dislikes. I know. I've been accused of that from people suffering with this issue. Oh, you only like this game because you want to impress that guy. Oh, you only do this because you're showing off. Oh, you're a liar, actually. You haven't accomplished anything in your life. It's just all for facade. And to us, it sounds like gibberish. It's like, why on earth would I lie about something that I can actually go and accomplish? I don't know about you, but to me, that's such a waste of life. It doesn't make sense. But these people don't know any different. That is their life. It does make sense. And as for the thousands and thousands of rebrands that Meghan Markle has gone through over the past few years and probably her whole life, here's what I have to say about that. If you have to go through a rebrand every other week or every other month or every other year and nothing works, then I'm really sorry to tell you, my friend, perhaps the problem is you. So in summary, no, I highly doubt that a significant portion of us envy the likes of Meghan Markle. I don't know about you, but if I were given a choice to pick all the money in the world, or rather to pick everything she has in exchange for my identity, who I am, my sense of self, my self-confidence, I wouldn't give that up for the world. I suppose they call it selling your soul. But can you really sell your soul when you go around behaving like you never even had one to begin with? Yeah. Make yourself scarce. Goodbye. Now you can use this as proof I'm evil. Make yourself scarce. I am Meghan Markle.
No, you're not.